Having discussed World Trade Organization, its objective, its principles, and agreements, now we move on to the connection between WTO and Indian economy. How far the agreements of WTO have had a bearing on the prospects of Indian economy. And this is the focal point of our discussion in this video. So, World Trade Organization and Indian economy. The implementation of WTO agreements will have far-reaching effects and consequences not only on India's foreign trade, but also on its internal economy. So this is a very important point that the agreements that we have signed with WTO, that will have far-reaching consequences on our foreign trade. That's very clear. But not only will it have consequences on our foreign trade, but also it will have consequences on our internal economy. That's a very important point. So WTO agreements have had consequences both on our foreign trade and our internal economy or internal trade. The progressive impact of WTO on India's economy can be perceived from the following points. So from the following points, you can understand the impact of WTO on India's economy. First is increase in export incomes. Of course, it is believed that when you engage in free trade, you will be able to sell your products without any restrictions in other countries. That means it will give you a scope for the expansion of export incomes. That is the expected outcome of foreign trade or expected outcome of expansion of foreign trade without any restrictions. Increase in export incomes. Income effects of the implementation of Uruguay round, UR package. We discussed the Uruguay round in the last video. There will be an increase in traded merchandise goods as an estimated by World Bank, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and WTO. It is expected that India's share in world trade would improve gradually over time, depending upon the degree of openness and integration of the domestic economy with the global economy. So it is expected that there would be an increase in export in earnings of our country as a result of WTO agreements. Now, let's come to trade in agricultural goods. Reduction of quantitative trade barriers and domestic subsidies in agriculture is likely to raise international prices of agricultural products, and India is likely to benefit from this in the form of high export earnings from agriculture sector. But this has certain negative sides also. People fear that and actually that has become a reality in many cases because of our agreements with WTO. The prices of agricultural commodities have been lowered also. And these things have badly affected the interest of the Indian farmers. That is the gray side of the story. But theoretically, it is presumed that when you engage in free trade in the case of the international agricultural goods, this may result in an increase in the export of the items over which you have a comparative advantage. And multilateral rules and disciplines. The Uruguay round agreement has strengthened multilateral rules and disciplines. And the most important of these led to anti-dumping, subsidies, countervailing measures, safeguards, and dispute settlement. This is likely to ensure greater security and certainty of the international trading system. So the rules and disciplines with regard to subsidies, anti-dumping, countervailing measures, and these will definitely ensure greater security and certainty of the international trading system. And that will increase the scope for international trade, which will turn out to be again beneficial for Indian economy. Now, growth in export of invisible services items. Under the provisions of GATT's agreement, member nations have liberalized the service sector and thus promoting trade in invisibles. India is a hub of effective coast of services would like to benefit from this agreement. So this growth in export of invisibles, because India has, we know that India has already become a service-oriented economy, because I think more than 50% of our GDP comes from the service sector. So not more, I think it is around this 54% of our GDP comes from the service sector, whereas in the case of Kerala, 64% of GDP comes from the service sector. So that means both Kerala and India have become service-oriented economies. And because of that, this engagement in WTO agreements, especially in areas of export of invisibles, that might help both India and China getting more advantage from international trade, especially in the service sector in future. Now, global movement of capital flows. India has increased the upper cap of foreign investment in various sectors and liberalized the foreign investment policy as per the commitments made to WTO. So we have liberalized foreign investment policy. Now we invite more foreign investors. We have actually increased the upper cap for foreign investments. And in some cases, 100% foreign investment has been allowed in many of the areas. So as a result of this, foreign investment and FDI, foreign direct investment, has increased manifold compared to the pre-reform period. A number of initiatives have been taken to attract FDI in India between 2000 and 2014. According to Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, the total FDI inflows soared by 24.5% to $44.9 billion during financial year 2015, as compared to $36 million in financial year 2014. So that means our liberalization effort towards making investment, foreign investment, free of controls, and that have actually paid us a lot in respect of increasing foreign direct investment over the last years. So this is an important advantage which India is said to have gained out of the WTO agreement. Now, TRIPS, the agreement on TRIPS at Uruguay round weighs heavily in favor of the multinational corporations and developer countries, as they hold a very large number of patents. But agreement on TRIPS will work against India in several ways and will lead to monopoly of patent holding MNCs. The trade-related intellectual property rights these things have benefited the MNCs, multinational corporations. Of course, the MNCs are likely to become a monopoly in areas where they have an advantage because of the patent held by these MNCs. And that may work against the interest of India. As a member of WTO, India has to comply with the standards of TRIPS. So we have no other option because we are a member of WTO. So whatever decision the WTO takes in respect of the TRIPS, trade-related intellectual property rights, we have to abide by the rules. We have no other option. But you must understand that this is something which will turn against the interest of Indian economy. Now, coming to the agriculture sector, the agreement on TRIPS extends to agriculture through the patenting of plant varieties. So we must bear in mind that the TRIP does not confine to the industry and the service sector. It extends itself to the agriculture sector. Even some multinational corporations can claim its right over certain plant varieties. So this may have serious implications for Indian agriculture. Patenting of plant varieties may transfer all gains in the hands of the MNCs, which will be in a position to develop almost all new varieties with the help of their huge financial resources and expertise. So this is something which will go against the interest of the Indian farmers. TRIPS, trade-related investment measures. Agreement on TRIPS provide for treatment of foreign investment on par with domestic investment. That means whatever concessions we give to the domestic investment, the same thing will be applied to the case of foreign investment. Means as and when we agree on these terms, trade-related investment measures, a country will be forced to treat foreign investment on par with the domestic investment. This agreement too weighs in favor of developed countries. There are no provisions in agreement to formulate international rules for controlling restrictive business practices of foreign investors. So we have no right to control the foreign investment we have no right to decide the rules controlling foreign investment. In the case of developing countries, like India, complying with agreement on terms would mean giving up any plan of strategy of self-reliant growth based on locally available technology and resources. So once we accept the terms, then we will have lost our self-reliant growth platform, because we will have to abide by the principles of TRIMS, and you will have no scope, or you will have no space for discriminating against the foreign investment. You will have to consider foreign investment on par with the domestic investment. This will be something, and this has, of course, turned against the interest of Indian economy. Non-tariff barriers. Several countries have put up trade barriers and non-tariff barriers following the formation of WTO. This has affected the exports from developing countries. So developed countries have adopted certain restrictions on imports from the developing countries. So this is something which again goes against the interest of Indian economy. Agreement on agriculture, AOA. AOA is biased in favor of developed countries. So WTO's agreement on agriculture, in short, it is known as AOA, Agreement on Agriculture, that has also gone in favor of the developed countries. And the issue of food security to developing countries is not addressed adequately in AOA. And with this, we end the impact of WTO on Indian economy. In 10 bullet points, we have discussed this. Just I will take you to these points quickly. The first one is increase in export income. The second is trade in agricultural goods. And the third, multilateral rules and disciplines, and growth in exports of invisibles, global investment and capital flows, TRIPS, trade-related intellectual property rights, and agriculture, TRIPS, trade-related investment measures, and non-tariff barriers, and agreement on agriculture, which again will turn against the interest of Indian economy. And with this, we stop the impact of WTO on Indian economy, or WTO and Indian economy.